Alleluia. Alleluia. Blessed are you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth. You have revealed to little ones the mysteries of the kingdom. Alleluia. 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 The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said, "What is the kingdom of God like? To what can I compare it? It is like a mustard seed that a man took and planted in the garden. And when it was fully grown, it became a large bush, and the birds of the sky dwelt in its branches." Again he said, "To what shall I compare the kingdom of God? It is like yeast that a woman took and mixed in with 3 measures of wheat flour, until the whole batch of dough was leavened." The Gospel of the Lord. We know that all creation is groaning in labor pains even until now. We await for adoption, the redemption of our bodies. Just a brief comment about the first reading today from the letter to the Romans. There's a very good essay written by C.S. Lewis called The Weight of Glory. It's one of my favorite essays that I've ever read. And basically what The Weight of Glory is about man's desire for God and man's desire for eternity. One of the ways to prove that God exists, there are many different arguments, but one of my favorite is what C.S. Lewis speaks about, and that is our desire for the infinite. One of the things that is the most basic and common experience of humans is that we live our lives as if something is missing. And it's something so personal and something so intimate to who we are that often we're not even really aware of it. But there is a hole inside each one of us that will never be completely filled in this life. And we spend our whole lives seeking its satisfaction, and it always seems just out of our grasp. I'll give you some examples. You probably have a favorite food that you like to eat. And oftentimes when you find your favorite food, you're craving it, you're longing for it. And then as soon as you finish eating, you're kind of left with a sense of dissatisfaction or disappointment. Same way when you listen to a favorite song. It might seem so satisfying and fulfilling as it's taking place, but then the song ends. And then you're back into the state that you were in. There are certain parts about our existence that don't make sense. The fact that we can be surrounded by many people or surrounded by the people who are dearest to us, and yet at times you can still feel lonely. There's a certain hole within each one of us that is never going to be completely filled in this life. And many of us spend our whole lives trying to fill it with other things except for God. In the words of C.S. Lewis, oftentimes we are like a child who is too occupied playing in his sandbox that he refuses to get out so that he might take a holiday at sea with his family. We get caught up in very earthly things trying to satisfy that desire. St. Augustine, the way he says it, is that even the man who is in the brothel, whether he realizes it or not, is actually seeking God. He's seeking to fill that hole within himself. All of us go through our lives with this longing that is never quite satisfied. Get another personal example. I think about this when I play guitar. I can be very occupied trying to learn new songs, and then it seems like as soon as the song is mastered, then I'm bored with it. We all have this that takes place in our lives. We're constantly seeking fulfillment, and it always seems just barely outside of our reach. That is what St. Paul is speaking about in this letter to the Romans, that all of us are yearning, longing for this redemption of our bodies, this hope for eternity, because all of us are made for eternity. And until we get there, we will always have this longing that is never quite fulfilled. Heaven, the experience of heaven, is the fulfillment of that desire all the time. It is the greatest possible existence we could possibly imagine. The greatest times in our lives, the times where we feel most filled, the times that seem so passing because they're so quick to come and go. Heaven is the experience of that fulfillment and satisfaction all the time. It is the greatest thing we could possibly imagine. Salve Regina, Mater Misericordiae,